to our second Free Society event here this semester. I'm excited to introduce to you tonight Dr. Tawni Ferrarini. Dr. Ferrarini is the Robert W. Plaster Professor of Economic Education at Lindenwood University, just right down the road. And she's a member of the economics faculty in the Plaster School of Business and Entrepreneurship. She's also a senior fellow at the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise. So we're excited to have Dr. Ferrarini tonight. This is her third time on campus here at HLGU. So would you join me in giving her a warm HLGU welcome?
Thank you, everyone. It's a delight to be invited back on campus. I feel like this is becoming a home for me, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight. So I am Dr. Tawni Ferrarini. I specialize in bringing free market ideas around the globe. I'm a Doug Thor's student, which he is a Nobel laureate from 1993. He was at Washington University, where I received my PhD. And we talked a lot and learned a lot about institutions. And that is basically encapsulates all rules and regulations that guide human behavior. And one of the things that I learned through his research, and because of his research, that if you get the rules right, then people will do incredible things. This led me to become involved in a project called Common Sense Economics, what everyone should know about local prosperity. It's entering its 4th edition this spring. You'll be able to purchase it at Walmart, on Amazon, wherever you purchase your books, whether you want it digital or not, in print, you can. The most exciting news I have to share with you is that another one of the co-authors of the Common Sense team, Joe Calhoun, and I visited 4 Eastern European countries this spring: Czech Republic, Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, which is north of Iran. Common Sense Economics is going viral in Eastern Europe. These former Soviet Union countries are embracing markets, and they actually look at them as a way to help them lift themselves up and out of prosperity. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is we're going to bring you back to the fundamentals in economics. And this is the common sense approach. We assume that people will only have one contact with economics, whether it's in high school or in college. Most students are not econ majors or business majors. And so often their experiences with economics is defined by their experiences in macro and micro courses. And I understand we have our econ faculty in the room tonight, so I'm not pushing against what you teach. It's just I'm specializing in helping reach the students who will likely not be a part of those courses, or at least if they go through those courses, they're crawling their way and trying to get out of them because of the supply, the demand graphs, and such. In common sense economics, we have 6 fundamental concepts or guiding principles. 1, incentives matter. If you attract people with things that they value, they'll move towards it. On the other hand, if you push them against their grain, they'll back away from it. If they don't like it, they'll stay put, or they'll just turn and go in a different direction. 2, every decision has an opportunity cost, which is one of the reasons that I thanked you tonight. Even though you did not get charged a monetary fee to attend tonight's event, I do know that all of you had something else that you could do with your time. You could have been watching TV, you could have been streaming, you could have been, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You could have done so many other things other than attend here. But you are all here. Regardless of the cost, what you sacrificed in order to be here, I know that you perceive the benefits of being here as higher than the costs. So I'm here, you're here. This is a great exchange of ideas. And we're going to talk about how to demonstrate these ideas and put them in action. And that leads us to item number 3, our fundamental guiding principle. People respond to changes in predictable ways. I understand some of you are here tonight because you can get bonus credit in your classes. Raise your hand if you're one of those students. So you increase the incentives, you motivate people to attend, And you know what? Each one of you were attracted by that opportunity to earn the bonus credit. You were willing to incur the cost of not working out, not working, not studying, or streaming videos. Whatever it is, we know that everyone who's in this room tonight receives the benefits as exceeding the cost, and often their opportunity costs. You could have done something else with your time. Next, we get back to the heart of what I'm talking about is institutions matter. That's rules and regulations. They can smooth things out for us and lead us to better outcomes, prosperity and wealth, job creation, positive societal outcomes, or they can go in the opposite direction. And they can do some really horrible things, as we're seeing around the globe today. 5, the 5th guiding principle, is voluntary exchange and entrepreneurship creates wealth and it improves health. As I traveled through the countries that I mentioned, I knew this, but I saw it again. I traveled to many countries around the world, and poverty in America is not poverty in Azerbaijan or Armenia or in Georgia or even Czech Republic. It means something totally different in those countries. They don't have sanitation, they don't have electricity, they don't have internet. The things that we in our modern society in the United States almost take for granted. And it's through entrepreneurship and the ability to navigate markets where we can buy and sell, save and invest, and do the things that we value most while helping others do the same. And we take the markets that allow us to generate this prosperity and to create positive outcomes in many instances for granted. Not because we're selfish or we're entitled, it's just because it's been a part of our lives for so long. And we understand that behind every action that we have, there's a sound institution. For us, it's a constitution that allows us to move in those directions that we value most. And as long as we don't bring harm or hurt to others, then we're okay doing whatever it is that we want to do, which is an amazing thing. When you hop over to some of the countries that I mentioned, unless you're among the elite or in the powerful circles, you constantly hunker down. And you pay attention to what you do and the wealth you create. And you try to hide it because you know it's going to be confiscated or taken away and given to others. And then last, but certainly not least, is today's decisions have future consequences. And I'm going to end with that at the end of our talk today because the future is yours. Your professors and I are going to depend on all of you to take care of us when we're older, to be our plumbers, our educators, our investors. And so we want to hand over all the reins to all of you with some faith and, I guess, evidence that you understand the future is yours and you can shape it starting today. So we start with the economics of the Constitution. I understand it's one of your, pillars. And it's an important thing to understand that the government, the stable government, it promotes primarily economic progress. That is the personal generation of wealth and the creation of new jobs by protecting your rights and others' rights to person and property while supplying a few public goods. And I'm not going to get into the definition of public goods, but it's not just because it's public education. It's that there's no competitive alternative, so therefore the government provides it. This is what economists mean by public goods. So we depend on a government to defend our natural rights. We are guaranteed the protection of our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. And as long as we don't intentionally bring harm or hurt to others, we can do whatever we want in the United States, which is an incredible thing. So the United States is a constitutional republic, and I'm not going to dig down into the depths of what that means, but as an economist, what it does mean for us is that we have 5 basic fundamental initiatives that we can plan on from birth to grave, and that is the freedom of personal choice, voluntary exchange, freedom to compete in markets as a laborer, as an employer, whatever we want to do, And again, we get back to the protection of persons and property. The United States Constitution and its founding fathers based much of what is written in the Constitution on these lofty principles with the role of government clearly outlined. If it wasn't outlined or defined or laid out in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, then everything else was left to the states and to the people. So I'm going to ask for a raise of hand. How many of you would just like $75 to magically appear and have to spend? Okay, even if you were here last year, let's just see the show of hands. Yes. So on a happiness meter, with -10 being you could be really, really upset, frustrated, confused, and just really dissatisfied with that, I bet most of you are pretty darn happy with that $75, right? Yes, there we go. So now that you have the $75, what would you like to do? Just shout it out. What would you like to do? Spend it. There you go. You have $75. You want to spend it, right? Yeah. You know what? What you do with your $75 and your ability to spend, always ask. Guess what? What's the catch? Okay? There's always a catch. When you have that $75, there's going to be a catch. Especially when you take it from different programs. And the items that you get or you are able to buy, especially when you go into these government institutions or into these programs, decisions are made on your behalf. But we all know people who participate in these programs. You may have participated in them. We're talking about them on campus. I mean, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It is an is thing. So, all of you, each of you has a card. If you don't have a card, just raise your hand. We have people in the room who are giving out cards. And what I would like for you to do, if you would please, and I'm going to bring this over, is I would like for you to look at the items in your card. And if you want, and if you have a or if you have a pen or some type of writing utensil, it's better and it's more fun and it's interactive. I want you to look at the items in cart 1. So often it's handy just to hold the card in half so that you only see the items in cart 1. And I'm going to assume that we have 2 candidates who are competing for your vote. And they're going to propose that you purchase cart 1 or cart 2, but they're going to determine the items in the cart. And the reason I'm bringing this up is what is in front of us next year? In 2024, an election, a presidential election. And if you watched last night's debate, you're seeing that the candidates, at least on the Republican side and soon on the Democratic side, they are going to define who they are, what they promise to bring if they're elected president, the changes that they'll make, and you're going to be asked to cast a vote. So I'm going to assume we have 2 candidates. Let's just assume they're running for president in November of 2024. And candidate number 1, who's pictured right here, first item in the card is saying, all right, I'm going to deliver to you $75 worth of goods and services. And first item is going to be Pantene Pro V shampoo. 13 ounces and 3 out of your $75 is going to be spent on that. And I would like for you, if you have a pen, to just tell me how happy you are with that being plus 10. You couldn't be happier. Minus 10, you couldn't be angrier. Do we have any bald people in the room? I'm not saying we do. Or somebody who's allergic to it. If you're bald or you're allergic to it, you probably give it a -10. If you're okay with it and the price is all right, you give it a 0. You say neither extremely happy or dissatisfied, I'm just okay with it, you give it a 0. And then if you're extremely happy, you give it a positive 10. And then adjust upward or downward based on your preferences. But you see what I'm saying with that? Okay? Now I'm going to say, all right, 15 out of your $75. Avatar on DVD. How many in the room have a DVD player? Wow. This is the most in a room that I've had with people who have a DVD player. But anyway, I want to ask you, whether meaning extremely dissatisfied, positive 10, you could be happy, or 0, you're okay with it. Next, we're going to go on down on the floor. We have any laundry detergent, $5. Do go through. Just tell me how happy you are on the happiness meter with this $5 worth of laundry detergent out of the $75 that I just promised you, and all of you said, I'm happy. Moving on, whether you have children or not, you're going to be spending 8 out of the $75 on Johnson's baby formula. Right here, Johnson's baby formula. Heidi, when we finish with this, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you about your experience with buying the baby formula. Okay? Kids or no kids, guess what? You're buying this, or you're going to have this delivered to your home. Next, we're going to move on to Fixodent denture cleanser. Anybody have a question? Fixodent denture cleanser. Question? Do you know what it is? No, you have no idea, and yet you're getting it. Well, it's for the people who have false teeth. Yeah, we may have some people that have false teeth, but you know what? 6 out of your $75, that's what this is going to be spent on. And then now, given the items in the cart, how many of you are okay with the Skittles? Dude, it's $1 out of the 75. But, okay, let's just move on. Gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, you too are going to have a box of Tampax tampons. We have a 24 count at $7. Yeah, okay. Moving on, my friends. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, now we have got different 24 to $75 is going to be spent on your electric beard trimmer. That's a third, about a third, okay? And then we have Kellogg's Frosted Flakes at $3, and we have a can of almonds at $3. Okay, so just go through the items if you would, please, and then you know what the price is, and give it a level of happiness. I mean, just think about the items in there, how you feel personally about the items that are in the cart and the prices that you're going to pay, and if you don't have the pen or whatever, in your mind, put a value down at the bottom. Okay, and pay attention to the sign, whether it's negative or positive, okay? All right, wonderful. All right, I'm going to ask you to turn over your card and look at the items in cart 2. And I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the items in the cart. But we're going through the same exercise, but now we have a different candidate. This candidate represents a different group and a different voting population. This individual here says, well, I've got $75. And if you elect me, I'm going to deliver different items to you. Okay, here we have in cart 2, we've got Crest toothpaste at 3 ounces for $2. We have Titanic on DVD for $14. We have Tawni fabric softener at 20 ounces. We've got Huggies diapers, 13. Got the jumbo pack for all of you. We've got an adjustable heating pad, my friends. 26 out of your $75 is going towards that. Okay, 26 out of your $75 is going towards that adjustable heating pad. Moving on, here we go, our young voters. We're giving you the Snickers candy bar, king size for $1. $1 out of the 75. Moving on, we've got the Revlon lipstick, 1 tube at $6. We've got protein bars, 1 box, 6 count, $6. You move on, we've got Kellogg's strawberry Pop-Tarts, 1 box, $3. And then last but certainly not least, we have extra sugar-free gum, 1 pack, 15 count, at $1. Okay, go through the same exercise and put your level of happiness. It could be -10, it could be +10, it could be anywhere in between with all the items in the cart. Okay? All right, I'm just going to give you a minute because I see some of you are actually looking and considering this. And this is just a fun experiment that you can do in class, you can do with different groups, you can bring it into the community, you can engage others to help them understand the difference between the democratic systems and markets when people are free to choose. And this is any type of democratic system. Okay, so let's move on. How are we going to choose between these two cards, everyone? What are we going to do? How are we going to choose which card? Do you want me to choose for you? You trust me? Yeah, you just want me to? How many people want that? What would you rather do? What is our other option? You're going to have to shout it out. When you pick? Well, you can't pick. You're going to choose one or the other. It's the system. It's the democratic system. We've got an election coming up in 2024. You got to pick between one of the two cards. How are we going to do? You want just one of these two to choose?
A vote.
Okay, you want to bring it to a vote. And when we talk about democratic socialism today, that's usually what people are implying. You vote people into office, and then you let the people vote, or the people who are in office decide the policies, who decide what goes in each cart, and how the money is spent. Okay, so in your heads, you've got two carts, right? I would like everyone to stand up if you would, please. Everyone stand up. You've got cart 1, and you know what the items are. And you've got cart 2, you know what the items are. So, if your favorite cart is cart 2, please sit down. If your favorite cart is cart 2, please sit down. So, the majority prefer which cart? Okay, what do we call the people who are in the majority at the end of the election and when they're the winners? Oh no, stand up, my friends. What do we call the people who remain standing? Losers. Okay, have a seat. Have a seat. Yeah, this is a fun way to understand the democratic system when things are brought to a vote and the simple majority decide which card is going to be chosen. They're by the institutional design. There are winners and there are losers. There are winners and there are losers. So it's something to realize that, you know, there's a system there. It has strengths, but it also has weaknesses. Was there anyone in this room okay, was there anyone in the room who had a negative value on both of these cards or saying, okay, the fun thing about that is, this is going off on me. It's called choosing between the lesser of two evils. This happened in the 2016 election for many voters. They cast a vote, they voted for one candidate or the other, and they said, well, I was choosing between the lesser of two evils. You know, $75, it's part of the system. I'm not happy with either one of the cards, but I'm going to choose the one that makes me least happy, right? The one that provides me with the less negative value, the one that's closest to zero. That's what that means. And so, one, in the democratic process, when decisions are made by a simple majority vote, there are winners and there are losers. And there are instances when individuals are choosing between the lesser of two evils, even though they're participating in the system. So it's interesting when you look at the items in the cart, and this is something that many of you should be aware of, especially the people in the younger generation, because there's a lot of discussion in the media about our federal debt. In the United States, it's historically high, higher than it has been during any war, So the amount we are incurring in debt compared to the amount that we're producing or the amount of income that we're generating is historically high. We are leveraging your future with the future of the unborns also. And so it's important to kind of think about what's happening here, because when you look at these items in the cart, you can see in public choice theory and economics, you can explain some of the special interests that are here, because people who are running for office, they respond to incentives. Their incentive is to get into office, to stay in office, and they do that by pleasing the voter, not all of you in the room, but those who are actively going to support Part 1 or Part 2, what the person represents. So when we look at Part 1 and we look at Part 2, we can see that they're catering in some instances to the entertainment industry, hence the explanation of the Avatar and DVD in Part 1, and then we've got Titanic on DVD in Part 2. Often when you lean on industry, it's the leaders with legacy presence in these industries. Often they're not using the latest and greatest technology. They're actually bogged down with the old technology, and they've got so much invested, it's not easy for them to be nimble and pivot quickly. And so they're going to advance what interests them the most. They're going to support the people that are running for office. And this is what we mean by special interests. Okay? Now, why do you think we have items like Johnson's baby formula and tampons and some of the other things that maybe cater to a certain population? Formula. Who are we trying to win the vote there? Who's it that we're trying to target in that group? Yes, moms, women, infants, anyone who cares about this population. We're trying to draw them into supporting us as a candidate and possibly getting their vote. Again, the people who are running for office or in office or about ready to step out of office, they want to cater to the interests of the voters who will put them in office, who will volunteer and help them, who will give to their campaigns, and the list goes on. So when we looked at the gentleman with the beard, he represents a certain demographic. What demographic is that? It's the men who have been in these offices for a long period of time, and they have a lot of political capital. Okay, then we hop over, and then we say, all right, well, we've got a younger person, maybe in this instance, it's a woman. Hillary Clinton was going against Trump. She had her own items in her cart. She was motivated by trying to get the vote, trying to get the supporters, trying to get in office. So she, like the other candidate, just like we do, she chose which items to put into the cart, because at the end of the day, if she didn't please the majority of voters, she didn't get elected. Okay, so just like you and me, elected officials, policymakers, they respond to incentives. They're motivated to move towards the things that they value most and back up against the things that are high cost or they value least. This is behavior, it's human behavior. And like us, the people who are in office and who have official influence, they're guided by the institutions and the rules and regulations in which they are governed. And so you can go through here, you see you have these other items, and you can link them to what we call these special interests. And the special interests, again, are those groups. It can be corporate, but it can also be teacher unions. It could be any type of union group. It could be AARP, the people who are retired. All groups work in this direction. And then when we move into markets, we say, no, those groups are taking from some and giving to others. And even though it tugs at our heart, what's happening is resources are being taken away from other people who are not freely giving up what it is that is being taken through them, especially through taxes And now with the mounting debt, it's going to be the debt, it's going to be future taxes that you and the end board have to pay. So, we also have the short-sightedness, and what the short-sightedness is, you know, the politicians who are in office right now and the groups who are supporting them, they could spend now and tax in the future, because when the taxes are being paid in the future, often they're out of office, or they could even be possibly not with us anymore. So it's an interesting predicament to be in. So the public choice economists, which I'll name in a few minutes so that you can keep them in mind, Gordon Tulliver, James Buchanan, and others, even John Maynard Keynes, is that we need to be mindful of these weaknesses in a system that we have a tendency to celebrate without recognizing that there are challenges when we try to bring things through the democratic system and we determine things through a majority vote. So I have a question for you. If you were given $75, what would you want to do? $75. If I gave you $75, what would you want to do? Do you want me to spend this for you, or to go through this whole process again? What would you like to do?
Spend it myself.
You just spend it yourself. Okay, now just for a moment, what I'd like for you to do is go through the items in the cart and pick out those items. Assume you're responsible and you're accountable and all those good things, but you value the freedom to choose. You're interested in your future. You understand the decisions you make today have consequences in the future, and the list goes on. Now, in a market-based society, you have the choice of choosing anything in these carts. You know what the prices are. You can look at your personal situations, your preferences, and consider the cost. You give it a thumbs up, you buy it, or you say no to the item, and you move on. So anytime you go into any of these stores, you come out with the products, only the products where the personal value that you place on the product is greater than the per unit price or cost. Okay, so now just go through mentally. The only constraint you have is you cannot spend more than $75. So just go through this exercise. Assume you have $75, circle the items that you would bring home. If you had the $75, you could save whatever it is that you don't spend. It's yours to keep. Just take a minute to rummage through both cards. So I just want a show of hands now. How many of you bought something that you found dissatisfying? Okay, what did you buy?
Detergent.
Well, what happens if you buy the detergent, or don't buy the detergent?
My clothes will be washed up.
Okay, so there's a benefit there. You're just like begrudgingly making the purchase, correct? All right, so you're like, yeah, that's a great example. Was there somebody else who was in a similar circumstance? In a market-based economy, again, you don't make a purchase unless the personal value, you want to or not, unless that benefit is greater than the price. Simply put, you're not going to move ahead with the purchase. Is there anyone in the room who spent the entire $75? Okay, so there's incentive to say no to the purchase, right? And so we call that naturally savings. So this gets us back to Milton Friedman and much of the work that he did in many different areas, along with Jim Courtney and others, that the incentive to save and invest is strongest It is strongest when people get to freely choose what to buy, whether they want to pay, what the price is, and the list goes on. When you walk out of the store, you walk out with the items that you value most, given the prices that were being charged. And if you think the price is too high, you have the freedom to choose, say no. You just move on. And when you leave the store, you see at Walmart, wherever it may be, farm and, what is it? Farm and Home Supply, which thank you very much for providing the shopping carts, is that you leave with those items that you value most at the least cost. When you're leaving the store, you're also supporting the business. It's a win-win situation. Market exchanges are win-win. So unlike the process that we just described, with the simple majority deciding which cart was going to be chosen or selected, where there's only, where by design you have the win-lose situation, when you have the market-based system, there's only win-win exchanges. You're helping yourselves, but you're also helping the businesses. And what happens to a business that charges extremely high prices and offers inferior products? You could, yes, they go away eventually in a market-based system. Unless you have some type of protections or support from government entities and different policies and such. So in the market-based system, and we're talking about one in which we have individuals who are responsible and accountable and are guided by, it could be faith, it could be character, it could be anything of the sort. In the market-based system, it's built on mutually advantageous exchanges of persons, ideas, property, goods, services, and the list goes on. Additionally, markets are competitive. So you have to earn your keep, so to speak. So businesses that don't remain competitive and look to the right, look to the left, and looking back at them and in front of them and are in business to satisfy consumers, they go out of business. That's the competitive process. You'll find this when you enter the labor force. You're entering a fiercely competitive environment. You're going to be defined by the skills that you bring to the industries that are attached or associated to your majors, but you're also going to be competing with thousands and thousands of other people who have the bachelor's degrees or the master's degrees, the certificates and such. And so it's important for you to be mindful about what the industry wants and what they're willing to pay, because at the end of the day, it's about mutually advantageous exchanges. It's about what you can offer the industry and your employer compared to the price or the wage you're going to be paid. And then finally, in the background is humming, again, is this sound government, this limited government, where you know if there are hiccups, that you trust that there's a system, that you can quickly report mishappenings, misgivings, exploitation, discrimination, and the list goes on. So we assume that this is going to be at the foundation of our market actions and interactions. Unfortunately, people around the world in many countries like those that I visited, including some countries, I could go back to Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan right now because of the geopolitical conflict there. Definitely can't. We were planning to go to Ukraine in 2024. We thought when we made these plans that the situation would be settled. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to go there. You can't go to Israel. And there are a number of Palestine. You think about what it means to be in war or conflict, then all of a sudden, all of this collapses. You can't get out and buy the things that you can't produce yourself. You can't depend on stability. You don't go to work freely earn a wage, go home, buy the things that you want, say no to the things that you don't want, think about the future, save and invest for a future. All of that just kind of goes away. And so it's important to give credit where credit is due. We don't have a perfect system in the United States. It's far from perfect, actually. But we've learned a lot. And the great thing is the rest of the world is turning to us to learn more. Because when you look at the prosperity that the United States has over the last 250 plus years, you think it's an incredible, incredible dynamic. Because we have gotten to where we are, not just by caring about ourselves and exploiting others. It's been through these mutually advantageous exchanges. And we have learned a lot. We've had failures, we've made mistakes, but we keep trying to improve, which is an incredible thing. So when you look at common sense in action, and you again take into consideration, when you're free to choose, you're more careful about spending the income that you earn. When you know you've earned that dollar, and when you get out and you have your families, you're going to think about what it is, how you spend it, for whom you work, how much you pay or paid. You'll agree to go to work, stay at home, and the list goes on. You're constantly going to be comparing one alternative to another. And in an economy where you're free to choose, you're going to make those decisions that not only help you advance to the next station that you set for yourself, but you're also going to bring others. And by participating in the marketplace, the exchanges that I just described here, you're helping yourselves and your family by purchasing the things that you value most, given their price. But again, hopefully when you shop again, you'll remember that you're also helping the business, the employees, because by helping the businesses keep their doors open, you're allowing them to employ other individuals. And when there's savings, especially in your homes and at the businesses, these are savings that are mobilized through investments, and investments create more jobs in the future and help generate new wealth, especially when we have that entrepreneurial piece in there. So, the United States, what we're experiencing now, we've been here and done that. When we go back and we look at the United States under the Articles of Confederation, guess what? We had a problem with debt. We were addicted to it. We had a problem with inflation. We had states that were erecting trade barriers across states. We had conflict between states. And all of these things are things that take away prosperity, new job creation, new wealth generation. And so having that stable government, bringing us back to one of the pillars that happens to be in your programs, is extremely important. But understand that we at Florida State have been doing this experiment since 2000. The items in cart 1 minus, now this is since 2000, minus the baby formula, the items in cart 1 cost just over $60. And in here, this is minus the baby formula. So you look at that and you say, wow, how can that be? We have a problem with inflation. Well, when you look at the items that are in here, what's happened is there's been advancements in technology, there have been advancements in the workforce. The people of today are more productive than the people of yesteryear. We see that businesses attract customers by keeping prices low and improving quality and also increasing quantity. So as you go through here, you would see that in some instances, not only are you getting lower prices, but you're getting extra items. And that's the beauty of the marketplace. In a competitive marketplace, businesses are going to strive to satisfy you. And how do they satisfy you? They bring you lower prices, better choices, higher quality, and the list goes on. But we had Heidi. Where are you, Heidi? Oh, there you are. Heidi, what did you discover with our baby formula? In the year 2000, it was priced at $8.26. We had to buy 2 of these. And what did you discover, my friend?
Just one of those was like $17.85. So almost
Just one.
$18.
What's happened here? Anybody know? Called tariffs. We are keeping products of lower price and possibly better quality from our consumers in the United States. And it was decided at the end of the year of 2022, and we'll see what this current administration does in 2023. But now this was these two items that's 24 ounces. This was $35. $35. So now you can see the price of tariffs. And you know, you'd have to go in and look it up, and this isn't the point of this conversation or this talk tonight, but there is a price of government. So what do? We go back to our constitutional roots, and we look at this incredible set of rules and regulations, because before the United States Constitution, there was no other nation historically in the world. We have this human stick of prosperity, and the United States is one that has led the way. And you go through the Constitution, you look at the spending clause, you look at the commerce clause, you look at the coinage or mint clause, patent and copyrights, and the contract clause, and you'll see that it emphasizes the importance of the marketplace with limited government. It's not saying we're tyrannical and that we don't want a government. It means that we want a limited government that is stable, that allows us to prosper as we've learned to expect in modern society. We know that markets fail, but so does government. And it's important to understand how government fails, and we can go through and dig deep into this. I invite you to look at what the world looked like in 1970, and we can look at some of the textbooks, even in economics, that predicted that the former Soviet Union would outgrow the United States because it had a centrally planned economy, and it was investing heavily in military, and it was deciding, the government was deciding what to produce, to whom they were going to produce for, what the prices were that they were going to charge, which is many, well, it's similar to some of the discussions that are being talked about in social media, especially about the merits of democratic socialism. So be aware that there are failures in the system, understand what they mean in terms of your life and how they will affect you, but also consider your future selves. How are you going to greet your future self, understanding kind of like the happenings of today? So let's learn from the lessons of the United States going against the Soviet Union. Let's bring together some of this information and spread it not only in our classes, but help other people understand through conversation, over coffee, whatever it may be. We've got an election coming up, and it's important to realize that socialism in general has a record of failure so blatant that only an intellectual could ignore or evade it. The destruction of person and property has never been greater under any other system. It's the one that we call capitalism, but we're calling it principled capitalism because we assume that there are individuals who are accountable and responsible, and they're guided by principles that cause them to help themselves by serving others in meaningful ways. And with that, I'm going to leave you with, it's not about resources, it's all about institutions. This brings me back to the very beginning. Institutions are the rules and regulations that guide what we do on a daily basis, on the national level, everywhere in between, including international. It's not about resources. In markets, you can bring items to people through the marketplace that help people who may not have the means or the resources to do things themselves. All you have to do is look at the countries that were on the list of the United Nations in 2010 that were living in extreme poverty, and one of the 2030 goals of the United Nations and others connected to it was to eradicate extreme poverty. They have said that they have accomplished that, And they have shifted their goal from eradicating extreme poverty to eradicating or eliminating all poverty by 2030. And they credit trade, international trade, free exchange, for helping them accomplish that goal extremely early. And with that, I thank you. I'll leave it open to question and answers. And do we have any? You all want to just get out of here? Is that it? Hey, it's okay. Unless there's a question. Yes? No?
I don't know how to ask this question. I'm not an economist of any sort, but from your perspective, the idea is that limited government aids this process. Like, let us make some of our own choices. And it's pretty obvious the government continues to encroach upon those free choices. And so what would economists say that we should be doing with our future selves to help limit that government?
This is an excellent question, and it's one that I was asked earlier. It's like, what can you do right now? It's one is bring back the government to its constitutional beginnings. And when you look at the Constitution and even the various amendments, you see that we have just encroached on personal freedoms and choices so much. And we all, whether we're voting or we're not voting, we're responsible for the changes. How do we kind of get back the government to what it's meant to do? And that is to protect our person and our property, and it's our right to keep what we earn versus having somebody take it and redistribute it in the ways that we just experienced in this cart experiment. And so I think what you can do is help yourself understand what it means to get back to our constitutional beginnings, but then sit down and have a conversation not only with like-minded people, but with people who may disagree with you. Listen to them first, understand where they are, respect where they are, and invite them to consider your perspective. And I understand, especially in this day, it's hard to put yourself in that position, but just like myself and other faculty in this room, we keep trying. It's an interesting thing. Are you going to be the lone economist who fights for these ideas? I think I'm going to be, because I believe in them. And at the end of the day, when I come back to the United States and I hit U.S. soil, after seeing the extreme poverty in some of these countries and realizing it wasn't about resources that was keeping these people in poverty, it was all about rules and regulations, protecting the privileged, the people in power and positions of authority at the expense of the masses. I thought, yes, this is worth, I don't want to say fighting for, because we've got to use that term very carefully now given the geopolitical state of the world. But it's worth helping others understand our position, especially in this age of social media. Bad ideas get spread quickly, and they take down people, careers, and they eliminate people from the competition very quickly. And so it's respect conversation, and keep trying, just keep trying. But I think that having knowledge is your first step, and making it relatable. And that's one of the reasons that co-authors and I in Common Sense Economics were so dedicated to this project, because our specialty is taking these rather complex ideas and making them relatable to the person who's on Main Street. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, gripes, jokes? You're just ready to go home. Well, you can go back to your residence hall, understanding you've earned bonus points, and I will thank you again for your time. I appreciate you coming out tonight, regardless of what the incentive was. You were here, and you gave me the gift of your time, and I do feel blessed, so thank you.